Hi, welcome to the DevOps interviews. My name is Abel Wang, and today we have a very special guest, Henry Dixon.
Ah, thanks, Abel. Nice to be here.
Yeah, so we get asked all the time, how does Microsoft do DevOps? And today we're going to peel back the layers a little bit and show how One IT does DevOps, right?
Excellent.
Yeah, so why don't we enlighten our users, what exactly is One IT?
So One IT VSO was something that we thought of a few years ago, where we're all moving the IT organization, which is massive within Microsoft, to a modern engineering stack. What that meant was essentially bringing everybody together to coalesce on the cloud-based framework that was at that time VSTS, as well as move away from the on-prem infrastructure and streamline on some of the technologies that were being offered.
Okay, so I imagine IT at Microsoft is pretty big. Can you give the viewers a scope of how big?
Sure. So within Microsoft IT, we have about 20,000 different individuals, 5,000 engineers, and then 15,000 ancillary individuals. Within that, we supported at that time about 4,400 projects.
Wow.
And approximately 1,500 different engineering teams.
Wow.
Yes. So quite a big project.
Massive, right?
Yes.
So I imagine scale would be something really difficult that you guys had to work with. So before you guys moved into, I guess, what was then called VSO, or VSTS, or what we call Azure DevOps now.
Right.
How did you guys manage everything before moving to the cloud?
It was unwieldy, actually. So we had 3 different on-prem TFS instances, where we had a smattering of many work item templates, a ton of TFVC repositories, some Git repositories, as well as you can imagine, a kludge of different engineering practices across Microsoft IT. So what we did was we, from a leadership perspective, wanted to streamline and essentially go everybody into the cloud, everybody into a single instance. So
it's a single subscription of VST, well, back then VSTS or VSO.
Correct, yes. In fact, not only a single instance, but we moved everyone into a single project.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how many people was that?
All 20,000, 5,000 engineers.
All 20,000 engineers in one team project?
Yes. At that time, we in partnership with VSTS wanted to prove that VSTS and VSTS projects could scale to an enterprise type of scope.
Did it work, having one team project for everybody?
So there are pros and cons to it. It did work. Some of the cons that we found out once having this massive scope is that reporting at that time still really needed to be fleshed out and thought. Managing everybody at that scope was a little unwieldy, especially having to train everybody on how to utilize the new instance. However, once everybody got in and they were familiar with it, people started to talk the same language. Engineering deliverables started to flow because everybody worked on the same thing. Everybody knew the same thing. So from an engineering perspective, things started to coalesce very distinctly. So that being said, it was also interesting in the fact that we didn't actually change any work item templates at all.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So that was the next thing that I was very curious about, because I've been in the VSTS TFS space for quite some time now, and I've actually helped enterprises migrate from on-prem to VSTS. And the first problem everyone runs into is, I ask them, did you customize your work item templates?
Right.
And undoubtedly they always say, of course, we did massive customizations. So what was it like for you guys? Did you have customizations?
We did not, actually.
Nice.
We used VSTS out of the box, and the mantra was, if we use VSTS out of the box, we could keep our maintenance and support costs much lower, as well as anytime VSTS upgraded, we would get those upgrades within the next rev. We wouldn't necessarily have to test
Yeah.
and roll that out back to our users.
So those are great benefits.
Yes, amazing benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back when you guys were on TFS and you had the 3 TFS servers and
Yes.
the multitude of projects, were those process templates customized?
They were very, very customized. And taking a look at the 47 different templates that we had to...
There were 47?
47
Oh my
different
goodness.
templates that we had to think about migrating. There are a lot of commonalities between all of them. And 90% of the commonalities were found in the defaults. Therefore, we decided just to make a business case to strip out all the extraneous items and utilize the defaults. There were teams that had problems with this, but ultimately, once we moved them into the new VSTS instance, they were fine after about a month.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So jumping back to the whole, all of engineering is now in one team project. What do you think is like the biggest benefit of having everybody in one team project?
Okay, the biggest benefit is being able to sign and associate work item types as well as work across teams pretty easily. Back then, there wasn't cross-project work item linking.
Right.
Now there is. If that was available then, we might have thought about doing things a little differently. However, back then, being able to work across a team and seeing how your item is being delivered or tracked across that team was really, really valuable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So that makes perfect sense to me. So being able to see cross projects,
Right.
Having everything within one team project made the visibility much easier.
Right.
And then now you can link work items from one project to another project because they're all sitting inside of one team project.
Yes.
All right.
And additionally, before we did this, this was before they had the code search across repositories.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So it made it invaluable to be able to take a look at all the repositories within one ITVSO to find what I needed to do to work in another team's code base. Now that we have code search across organizations, it makes it much, much easier.
Right.
However, back then, we were able to see, utilize, and submit pull requests where we needed to.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So this is really interesting to me. This is really cool. So let me just recap a little bit to make sure I've wrapped my head all around this. You guys started with 3 TFS servers, a bajillion team projects,
Yes.
engineers everywhere. You've got repos everywhere. You've got work items everywhere that have been customized. Every team probably wanted to customize it a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And then you guys decided, okay, it makes sense to move to the cloud because who wants to maintain a TFS instance?
Exactly.
So let's move to the cloud, and since we're going to do this, let's all sit inside of one team project because then now we can have a cross-project pollination, right?
Right.
If I'm working on multiple projects as a developer, it's easy for me to see across everything.
Exactly.
So then you had to convince all the teams, all right, all of your customizations, you don't need any of it.
Right. Yeah.
How did that go?
So, so what we did was we first utilized everything out of the box. But the biggest impetus to move everybody en masse was the code.
Yeah.
You move the code, everybody's going to follow.
Right.
So what we did was across the engineering groups within Microsoft IT, we provided them classes on what is Git and what does Git mean to you and what can you do with Git that you necessarily could not do with TFVC.
Got it. So you guys standardized on Git. So
Correct.
all the repos now, they're all Git repos.
All the Git repos, and after a couple weeks of playing within Git, most of the engineers were really, really comfortable.
Sure.
So now, once the engineers were comfortable within Git, we then went to the supporting teams and the PMs to show how to work with the work item structure. And then once those two fell into place, within about 9 months, most of Microsoft IT had migrated from an on-prem solution to the cloud.
So speaking of migrations, did you guys migrate all the teams at once, or did you move like teams over one by one, or how did you approach that?
No, that's a great question. So we after 1,500 teams, we couldn't necessarily move everybody one by one.
Sure.
So we did a staggered approach monthly based off of the Microsoft IT business units. So it was about anywhere between 150 to 200 teams a month, staggered appropriately. And of course, we started a little small initially, maybe 10 to 15 teams a week, and then we were up to about 150 to 200 teams a week right at the end.
Got it, got it. So the next question that I always get asked when people are thinking about migrations is, how do you move, well, how do you actually do the physical migration? Is there an outside tool that you use? What about history of the work items, history of the source code, things like that?
So that's a great question. With some of the work item history, we were able to pull in some of the work item history that was in some of the default fields, like description, for example. And that was actually easy, and we used one of the VSTS internal tools. Okay. I'm sorry, external tools that's been created for work item migration. Okay. With Git, it's a lot easier. You don't necessarily get the history of the code, but what we did get was just a flat copy and paste from the old TFVC instances. Got it. And then we left those around.
So you just grabbed the tip of the code and stuck it in Git and said, hooray for that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we left the old code around locked, so that if people needed information or version information or history from that point, they could go back about 6 months to take a look. Perfect. And then we decommissioned everything after about 6 months after the last group moved.
Yeah. Well, it's great that that's how you guys did it, just because I've told a lot of our customers that that's probably how they should do it, right? They always ask me about source code history, and I know developers were very attached to our history, even though I barely look at it, but I'm still attached to it.
Right.
It's like my security blanket.
Yeah.
And what I tell teams usually is, go ahead and just grab the tip and stick it into the new instance of VSTS or Azure DevOps or whatever we call it now.
Right.
And if you need history, keep the old repo around for a while.
Exactly.
And very quickly, you're going to start building the history that you need. I think when I write code, I look at history maybe a week out, maybe 2 weeks out. Right. Anything further than that, I think I need it, but very rarely do I really look at it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we found that a lot of the we did a lot of analysis, and the hits that were going back to the on-prem product died about a month in. Got it. Yeah, once a team had moved over for about a month, they were no longer logging into or looking at the on-prem product.
Got it. Yeah. So for the work items, you used a tool that helped migrate all the work items over.
And I believe it's there on the marketplace.
Okay. But yeah, there are quite a few tools in the marketplace.
Yes. Yeah.
So that makes sense. And for the source code, if it's a Git repo, you just clone it, and hooray for that, you're done.
Exactly.
And if it's TFVC, you just grab the tip and kept the old stuff around. What about things like your pipelines?
So that's a great question. Well, back then, we didn't necessarily have pipelines.
Oh, really?
So
what did you have?
We just had random build definitions. Okay. So when we started moving, a lot of groups took the time to move away from their old random build definitions to the new VSTS build definitions. They weren't necessarily called pipelines back then. That's right. Yeah. That's right. So that being said, it had an opportunity for dev teams to refactor some of their build processes, tighten up, put new things in there, or also take a look at groups like, or items like Travis and Circle for CI. And so with that being one of the things that VSTS had, some of the groups that were reticent to move still were able to move and utilize some of the older technologies that they wanted to use, but not necessarily have to move into a pure Microsoft-based solution, which was great. Got it. So for Microsoft engineering, we get to use the tools that work for us, right? Exactly. Got it. Yeah. So right now, would you say
most teams are using Azure pipelines to do their build and releases, or are they still using customized tools or outside tools and cobbling them all together inside of Azure DevOps?
Inside Microsoft IT, I'd say it's about 80% Microsoft-based pipelines. There are certain teams that are definitely utilizing some of the more prevalent CI tools out there, like Travis and Jenkins and Circle.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So now that you guys have done this, well, I may have asked this earlier, but I can't remember. How long did this whole migration process take place from beginning to end?
That is a great question. So the bet on that was 18 months.
Okay.
When I took charge, I gave a very aggressive timeline of about 12 months, and we got it done in 9.
Wow.
Yes.
9 months, and
9
you moved
months.
everyone from on-prem into the cloud.
Not only did we move everybody from on-prem into the cloud, we changed the mental model and the mental mindset of Microsoft IT. This was mainly for the ability for our engineers to not only work on modern engineering efforts and code bases, but also to attract individuals. And so when we found that we were able to move engineers faster, and they were really, really invested in learning and really doing things with Git, everything became a tsunami.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that kind of makes sense, right?
It was
because
great,
Now, now they can still be real, shouldn't say real developers, but developers using modern tool sets, modern
Exactly.
processes and things like that.
Yeah, and it was exciting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
And I'm sorry. Within Microsoft, there's always been a us versus them thing with developers and IT developers. We no longer had that, which to me and for the teams that I helped bring up and support, that was important.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. So I think some of our viewers might be wondering, so it makes sense that, okay, if you're an engineer in a product group, or you're building for a specific product,
Right.
if you're an engineer inside for IT, what type of software would you be writing? What type of stuff is going to be in this instance of VSTS?
So that's a great question. So a lot of people have a thought that Microsoft IT might just write tools and one-off items. In Microsoft IT, we not only write tools and one-off items, we support some of the larger tool sets as well as build some of the bigger platforms that Microsoft IT utilizes, or Microsoft utilizes. The whole HR platform is run under Microsoft IT and built from Microsoft IT.
Got it. Okay.
A lot of our security items are built in conjunction with Microsoft IT. So we're building a lot of the things that most people would want to build in a lot of the languages that they're utilizing. C#, C++, Python, JavaScript. We're utilizing essentially the same things that we see other groups within Microsoft utilize.
Yeah, just at a massive scope, right, of 20,000 engineers all.
It is, yeah. We're not building Windows, but we build everything that supports Windows.
That's awesome.
So,
That is
yeah.
awesome. All right, so one final question that I have.
Sure.
I'm just trying to figure out 20,000 engineers in one team project.
5,000 engineers, 20,000 individuals total.
Got
Yes.
it. Okay. So 20,000 people inside
Yes.
of one instance of Azure DevOps. How many repos?
Wow, that's an awesome question. So I've seen the repos grow from 3 repos when I first started to 2,400 at last count.
Wow.
So that being said, 2,400, probably 1,600 active.
Understood. Yeah,
So
yeah.
So it's a massive growth within that time frame.
And Azure DevOps, does it scale seamlessly with this many people all in one team project?
For the most part, yes. The reporting is still growing.
Correct.
Yeah, but every single team can utilize one IT VSO in a single project with not only what they need, but all the security measures that they need as well.
Yeah.
So And that's being done out of the box without any type of new build out around it. Yeah, no scaffolding or anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so if you're out there and you're a big engineering organization, you can actually take VSTS out of the box and it will work for you.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? But it's another thing completely when we can show them, you know what, this is literally what Microsoft does. Internally, these are the tool sets that we use, and it scales at a massive rate, right? I mean,
It does, yeah.
20,000 users in one team project, that's probably the biggest team project that I've heard of. And I work with a lot of our customers.
Right. It's kind of crazy how big it is, so yeah.
So would you say this has been just a stunning success of going from on-prem and moving to the cloud?
I would. I can't think of another item that has been this fulfilling, this impactful.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to say this successful because I'm one of the drivers for it, but it was really successful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Clearly it's successful if everyone is still in one team project and everything's just humming along.
exactly. Yeah. After 2.5 years, it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much, Henry.
Hey, well, thank you.
Absolutely. So for all you viewers out there that want to know how does Microsoft do DevOps, follow this series and we're going to do a deeper dive into all the sections in Azure DevOps.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.